Hey, what is going on, you guys? Welcome back, and welcome. If this is your first time tuning into my channel, my name is Adrena Monet, and I have a little different setup today and everything else because I have been on travel and I'm not in the States currently, so we've got a different setup, which is good, and everything else good and refreshing. Today we're going to be having a conversation in honor of Domestic Violence and Abuse Awareness Month. Every October marks that, and so if you're new to my channel, you will see some prior videos about narcissism, which is a whole just demonic connection and nightmare and everything else that all things narcissism is. And so we're going to have a brief conversation about narcissism, but also especially domestic violence and abuse as well, because narcissism is definitely a form of domestic violence. And so we're going to go ahead and get into the conversation. I guess I'll go ahead and I'll start off by defining what domestic violence and abuse is. It's not just physical. And domestic violence does not just affect women. Women may be, we may be the majority of targets and victims of domestic violence and abuse and survivors of domestic violence and abuse, but men definitely make up a good portion of, whatever the total numbers are, okay? Now, of course, with men, men are designed to be our protectors, and then some, right? Protectors, providers, and everything else. So when it comes to men that are abused and that are in domestic violence and abuse relationships and marriages, they're not going to be as prone to being open and transparent about what they are dealing with behind closed doors, publicly, etc. That's just not how they're wired. But domestic violence definitely affects them quite a bit, and I dare say that it's narcissism that is indeed the biggest form, the greatest form of domestic violence and abuse that men are targets and victims of and survivors of, obviously for those that end up on the other side of things and choose to fight for their lives and get out of those toxic and demonic connections with a female narcissist. And so yeah, so that is that on domestic violence, but I'll go ahead and define it more formally. I'll put this definition, I don't know, maybe in the comments or whatever when I get done and I upload. But domestic violence is not physical violence alone. Domestic violence is any behavior with the purpose of gaining power and controlling a spouse, a friend, a partner, a girlfriend or boyfriend, or an intimate family member. Abuse is a learned behavior, or honestly demonic as well. Okay, let's not forget that demonic piece. Abuse is demonic in nature as well. That's me saying that because it's facts, and it's not just caused by anger. It's not caused by anger, mental problems, drugs, alcohol, or whatever other excuses the abuser will try to make up in their defense for being demonic and violent and a predator and everything else. Okay. And so that's what domestic violence is, according to the Arizona Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. And so I'll put that definition and all that in the comments or whatever below. So now that we've defined domestic violence, one key phrase that you heard me say is that it's any behavior that serves the purpose of gaining power and control over your target, okay, over the abuser's target. So of course, when it comes to narcissism, which is the greatest form of, which is a form of domestic violence and abuse, and the greatest form of domestic violence and abuse when it comes to men who are victims, targets, and survivors of narcissism and everything else. Yes, women are targets too, but men also are targets. And so I like to keep that balance and all of that, just to shine that light on the fact that both genders are equally affected and can find themselves in the nightmare with a narcissist. And so I was saying all that to say, well, oh my gosh, I guess I lost my train of thought. But yeah, the tactics that we know narcissists use to gain power and control, and to try to maintain that power control over a person is, love bombing and future faking and that type of thing, gaslighting and that type of thing as well. Those psychological and demonic tactics that they use and everything else to control and manipulate and deceive and all of that, friends and partners, etc. And so yeah, that pretty much is kind of like some background on domestic violence and also how narcissism narcissism ties into the fact. Let me see. Okay, so something else I wanted to also point out in honor of Domestic Violence and Abuse Awareness Month, it being October and all, is that abuse never looks like abuse, which is why abusers are able to so sneakily, through demonic and deceptive strategies and all of that, intrude on our lives. And then over time, they wreak havoc. They destroy our self-esteem. They destroy your personal identity. They just so much more of the unthinkable and the unimaginable ends up happening to a target and a victim and a survivor's life over time that they just would have never imagined, being possible, right? And so, abuse never looks like abuse, and demons don't look like demons. They didn't wear the whole red, costume and all of that. They are disguised in their human shells. But again, all of this is spiritual and everything else as far as just all things narcissism and everything else, and just even abuse altogether. Like it's a spiritual battle and all of that as well. And so something else I wanted to also say is that if any form of domestic violence, abuse appear to be just that, and like it was very clear and evident that that's what you were dealing with someone that you allow to get close to you and come into your life, then surely many people who have been targets of the fact, they would have never entered into such friendships, connections, and otherwise. And they would have spared themselves the torture, the torment, just everything that comes with being in a domestic violence abuse relationship or friendship even. And so, that's pretty much my spill on domestic violence and whatnot. We know that domestic violence is not just physical. We know it's financial, especially with the narcissist. Domestic violence on a narcissism level is definitely not just physical. Of course, obviously they are physically abusive, but they're mentally abusive, they're psychologically abusive, they're spiritually abusive, and so on and so forth. And so, that's pretty much kind of some insight and all of that. I wanted to tie into domestic violence and all of that in honor of the fact that it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I just wanted to take a moment to, do a little bit of sharing and keep the conversation going relative to getting on with our best lives and all of that. Those of us who have knowledge and have unfortunately, have personal experiences and all of that with narcissists and everything else. And so I just figured I would share that. Stuff is all fun and games until you really take a step back and assess your life, and you put two and two together, and you put the pieces of a puzzle together, and you realize that you found yourself in a domestic violence and abusive relationship and everything else. So stuff is all fun and games, until you wake up and you look within and you go within and all of that, and you assess your life and where it is, and a person's behavior, the abuser's behavior, and all of that. It's definitely a sobering moment. It's definitely a sobering moment. But there is life after having gotten on the other side, or working to get to the other side of living the life that you deserve and being connected to the sort of friendships and relationships that you deserve, post life with a narcissist and everything else. And so that is the silver lining there, so to speak. But I just wanted to, like I said, just take this moment to shine. Oh, also, I really want to take this moment to even do this video because with the existence of narcissists altogether, especially, and how common a form of domestic violence and abuse it is for both women targets and men targets as well. I wanted to just kind of reiterate the importance of, being vigilant for your friendships and whatnot, and just, just being vigilant, being observant, and, being ready to listen and that type of thing, and being mindful of what you hear. If you end up maybe seeing some red flags that maybe a friend or a loved one or whoever else is in a narcissist connection, especially, just being a listening ear, and if the person reaches out and really wants to get some answers to some things and that type of thing. You could be, just part of the dynamic through which this person doesn't lose a good number of their years to such a nightmare and that type of thing. But definitely domestic violence and abuse awareness is crucial year round, not just in October. I said all that to say that, but yes, domestic violence abuse awareness is definitely crucial year round, especially for those people that are in narcissistic connections and all of that. So I just wanted to take a moment to do this video and have the conversation. So comment down below if anything resonates with you, with the points that I've made and all of that. And yeah, I will check in with you guys later. Thank you for tuning into this episode, and like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.